Hello, hi, and a very, very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on which part of the world you're checking in from. I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far. Thank you so much for taking time to be part of today's ADSelfService Plus online workshop series, the first of this year. So starting with a very, very happy new year to every single one of you who's joined me here today. I hope 2020 has a lot of fun and exciting things in store for all of us. And yes, I will be walking you through this workshop series. Hi, I'm Sharda Murthy. I work with the marketing team here at ManaGinger. I'm a product expert in ADSelfService Plus, and I'm going to be the presenter for this particular series. This is a 4-day series spanned over anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes each day, where I will walk you through the modules of ADSelfService Plus that will help you understand the application better and also give you an experience of troubleshooting your issues, getting to know what the application has in store, get a hands-on experience of working with the application, and also take time to shoot your questions at me if you have any. So we will be talking about how you can empower your workforce and secure access to resources, with password self-service, multi-factor authentication, and single sign-on. Before I jump into the session plan for the day, session 1 of this particular series, I would like to do a very, very quick audio and video check. If you can hear me loud and clear, and if you have no issues in viewing the screen, please drop in a yes message in the chat box provided. Looking for a couple of confirmations before I can proceed further with today's session. And I would also like to throw a very, very quick disclaimer. I'm continuing to work from home. I'm working remotely and I'm doing this session remotely here today. So in case there are any technical issues at any point of time, please keep me notified by dropping a message in the chat box. I will quickly check my connection, rectify if there's some issue before I proceed further with the session. And yes, if the worst hits, if I have a persistent network issue, if I get disconnected for some reason and I'm unable to join back in, please don't worry. I will ensure that a copy of today's session or recording reaches your inbox within the next couple of hours. All right, I have more than 25 confirmations. Thank you so much, every single one of you. A very, very warm welcome. Thank you so much for taking time to be part of this online workshop series. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how you can empower users with password self-service and also ensure 100% adoption of this particular application that we're talking about today, ManaGinger ADSelfService Plus. So yes, before I do jump into the session plan for the day, walk you through the agenda. It is a live workshop. You will get a hands-on experience of working with the application. But this question is more out of curiosity. I would like to understand what part of today's audience are existing customers of ADSelfService Plus. So if you've worked with the application before, if you have the application in us, please drop a yes message in the chat console. If not, please drop a no message. I have about 8 yeses so far. Thank you, Jason, Chris, Eric, thank you so much for taking time. Jim, JC, Gajan, thank you so much. Perfect, all right. So I do have a couple of you who are existing customers of ADSelfService Plus. You probably have experience of working with the application, or some of you could have installed the application and are just getting started with the application. So this is a perfect platform because I'm going to walk you through every single configuration from scratch. But since we have just about 30 to 45 minutes each day, I have pre-configured my infrastructure right here. Very quickly jumping to the ADSelfService Plus console that I have here. I'm going to quickly walk you through what I've done with the setup that I already have. For security reasons and because of network restrictions, security practices that we follow on an organizational level, there are some restrictions that I also have when it comes to working with ADSelfService Plus in my infrastructure, but I am going to try to give you information to the best of my knowledge here today and walk you through a live hands-on experience of working with the application. So Before we get started logging into the application right here, I'm going to go back to my RDP. I have a test infrastructure that I'm working with, and I'm working directly as an administrator just to make things a little bit easy for all of us. Sorry about that. So what I've done here is I've logged on directly to the server. But for those of you who do not have experience of working with ADSelfService Plus before, those of you who are here to understand what the application has to offer, understand password management, the importance of password self-service, how you can leverage the application better, I would recommend you to go to this particular website, which is ADSelfServicePlus.com. Hit the download option. We provide a fully functional, no restrictions, no payment, nothing, a fully functional 30-day free trial of the professional edition. So you can actually choose to download the application and explore the application and see how it works for in your environment as a test infrastructure. And if not, if you simply want to get a hands-on of the demo of ADSelfService Plus, I'm going to very quickly pass on the link for all of you in the chat console. It's as straightforward as demo.adselfserviceplus.com. There you go. Please check your chat console to access this particular link. It's a pre-configured infrastructure. You can get a hands-on experience of the application. Once again, due to security restrictions, we have some very few administrative features that we have disabled, but you can log in as an administrator, no sign up, no credential required, and explore the application along with me. All right. So yes, let's have a fantastic series where I'm able to answer all your questions that you have about ADSelfService Plus, password management, and user identity security in the next 4 days. What I've done in the backend is I've created a test domain. I have created, I've created an OU in my name. I've also created sub OUs trying to replicate a small organizational structure. This is the same workflow. This is the same setup, same workflow I will be following through these sessions just to make it easy for all of us. So yes, I have a couple of user accounts that I've created. And when I get started working with ADSelfService Plus, the very first thing that I need to do is configure my domain. I want you to notice that I have actually taken access to the ADSelfService Plus web portal directly from my existing machine, right? Windows machine that I'm working with today. And that's how access is enabled for every single user on an organizational level. But I also want to very quickly inform you that depending on where you download and install ADSelfService Plus, if that particular machine, if that particular object, computer object, or that particular network infrastructure does not have access to the domain, you will have to manually configure domains. And I actually have, the setup that I'm working with actually auto-detected SSP workshop because that is literally the setup that I'm working in. Whereas I had to manually configure the other two infrastructures simply because it exists in different systems across the organization. So it's a simple, straightforward click to add a new domain, enter the domain details, pick your domain controller, authenticate the identity with administrative credentials, and you are good to go. One common question that I receive when I talk about downloading ADSelfService Plus is that, in fact, two common questions that I get is, do I need to install ADSelfService Plus in every single user's machine? The answer is no. The second question that I receive is, do I have to install ADSelfService Plus in a primary or a secondary domain controller? Once again, that's completely up to you. But if you have security issues that you're afraid of, you can choose to download the application in a member server and it works just fine as long as the authentication is good to go. So as you see, I have a couple of configurations right here. I am going to predominantly stick to SSP workshop because all the users in this particular domain are test users and I would like to keep it that way. But yes, the very next thing that I would do when I get started working with ADSelfService Plus is to define my self-service policies. All right, I'm going to take time to answer a quick question from Ravi. Will we get a recording as well for this session? Yes, This session is being recorded live, so a copy of today's session will reach your inbox. Thank you so much, Ravi. So yeah, coming back to policy configuration, you can choose to permit users to take care of their own password management chores. This could be password resets, account unlock, self-update of personal information, as well as password changes. For today, I'm going to talk only about the native Windows Active Directory. So you will be able to allow users to perform all these self-service, benefit from all these self-service features by providing permission right here. But I also want you to notice, though I have permissions given to an entire domain, I've also selectively given permissions to 3 different self-service policies, like we call it within ADSelfService Plus, based on different permissions that I would like to give to user groups. All right, so this could be anything from, it could be user groups based on existing groups in your AD, OUs in your AD. It could be based on, compliance mandates, demographic user groups. It could be based on regional groups. It could be based on, departments, offices, pretty much anything that works best for users in your organization. Organizational roles is what I've stuck to here today. So I have users sorted into admin, marketing, and finance, and I have different self-service permissions delegated right here. So I'm also going to quickly walk you through how you can achieve that. So let's say I have test user accounts. I simply want them to self-update personal information in AD. I can choose to customize my self-update layout as well. You will notice that many instances I'm sticking to the native self-update layouts, the pre-configured or the fundamental configuration across many systems. That is just to make it easy for all of you, but pretty much everything you see in this particular console, from the font to color to the language, can be customized. And I'm going to let you explore all that as well. And I will be talking about that. I will be talking about customization in the last session, but let's assume that I have a test policy where I allow users to self-update personal information. Trust me when I say this, this is literally all you need to do. Pick your OUs or groups. You can also choose to work across multiple domains as well. You can choose to not inherit child OUs as well. I click on OK, and I'm going to simply save this policy. And this is literally all I need to do as an administrator logged into ADSelfService Plus to allow users to take care of their own self-update. All right, so first things first, how we get started working with ADSelfService Plus: download the application, configure your domain, customize self-service policies, and delegate self-service actions to users and user groups within the organization based on compliance mandates, security mandates that you have, security restrictions that you have, pretty much anything that works best for users in your organization. All right. So yes, quickly jumping to the agenda right here, I'm going to start by talking to you, walking you through, more importantly, how you can empower users to reset their passwords and unlock their accounts. I'm going to walk you through how you can set up OU and group-based self-service policies, secure the password self-service process with multi-factor authentication, and then move on to talk about how you can ensure users in your organization have onboarded to this particular application, how you can notify users about their password expiration, allow them to take care of their own password resets or change password operation, let them update their cache credentials as well. And finally, talk about being able to audit end users' password self-service actions with real-time audit reports. All right. I have decided to walk you through the administrative actions of all that you see in today's agenda. I am going to walk you through how you as an administrator, how you as an IT security specialist, how you as the different feathers that you have in your cap, different roles that you play in your organization can actually leverage ADSelfService Plus to perform all the actions that you see on the screen. And that is what session 1 is going to be all about. Eventually, through this series, I will give you a perspective on how things look from an end user's perspective, so that I'm able to do justice to the agenda, walk you through the configuration as well, and Also, towards the end of the series, I will give you an end user perspective on how each and every single module within ADSelfService Plus works or looks from an end user's perspective. All right. So starting with setting up or empowering users to take care of their own password reset or account unlock. Jumping to ADSelfService Plus right here, we have customized policy-based permissions for self-service. So I want you to notice that the administrative policy has permissions to reset password, unlock their account, self-update personal information, and change their Active Directory passwords, all right? But this is not enough. When you get started delegating self-service actions to users in your organization, it's important for you to ensure only the right person goes through the right self-service action, right? So for which we need multi-factor authentication. It's mandatory to enable multi-factor authentication. Once again, for the ease of today's session, I have pre-configured these authenticators, but when you work with a brand new ADSelfService Plus infrastructure, you will immediately be asked to configure your authenticators. And by default, the security question answer, the email verification, as well as the AD security questions are also enabled by default. So for the administrative policy that I'm working with today, I have more than 5 authenticators that I've pre-configured. And when I jump to the password reset or account unlock process, I have picked a minimum of 2 levels of authentication and also set the Microsoft Authenticator as mandatory. I'm going to quickly click on the advanced setting right here to show you I have an idle time that I can configure. I can also deny users from performing the password self-service action when partially enrolled. I'm going to talk a bit more about enrollment in a couple of minutes. I also want you to notice when I click on MFA enrollment, you can notice that users will be enforced to authenticators, which include security question answer and Microsoft Authenticator. You can also choose or force users to enroll when they log into the end user portal. Let me click on cancel, jump back to multi-factor authentication. So the administrative user group that we are working with today has access to more than 5 authenticators to verify user identity. They have to verify their identity with Microsoft Authenticator, which is set as mandatory. And let me actually walk you through a live password reset process next. But before I do that, I'm going to jump to the reports tab. Click on audit reports. Click on user reports. I am going to click on password expired users report. Let me generate this within the next couple of seconds. There we go. I have multiple users whose passwords have already expired, including the user I will be working with today, which is Sharada. All right. So I want you to notice that the password has already expired a couple of days back. So let's assume that I was on my New Year break. I could not reset my password on time. When I come back early in the morning, and if I have trouble logging into my machine, let's assume that I've forgotten my password, multiple bad password attempts. It could be any scenario, right? I would like to successfully reset my password without having to reach out to the administrator, without having to reach out to the IT help desk department. And that's exactly what I'm going to walk you through. Sharza, the user, belongs to the admin self-service policy. A quick jump right here. There we go. And I've simply replicated the OUs that you see right here in the self-service policies I've created within the ADSelfService Plus infrastructure I'm working with today. So let me click on my Gina CP screen, click change a password. Let's assume that I do not remember my old password anymore. So with the default Microsoft workflow, Microsoft on-prem workflow, I will not be able to log in or change my password, right? But I do have a provision to reset my password or unlock my account. I'm going to click on password reset right here. Just a couple of seconds for the page to load. I'm experiencing a bit of a lag. Sorry about that. But yes, I am redirected to the ADSelfService Plus web console. All right, I hit password reset. I am asked to enter my username. Sorry about the lag. I did not anticipate it. I have taken an RDP and I'm guessing the server connection is a bit slow. I click on continue. And I'm redirected to the Microsoft Authenticator app right here. I have pre-configured the Microsoft Authenticator for this particular user, all right? So I'm actually going to go through the user identity verification, accessing my mandatory Microsoft Auth app. All right, this code is about to expire. Stick with me. CAPTCHA is not mandatory. You will be able to remove CAPTCHA from specific or all pages. I click on continue. I have been able to successfully verify my identity with the mandatory authenticator, all right? Let's assume I cannot verify my identity with any of the authenticators that you see on the screen right here. I'm trying to bypass the secondary factor authentication, and I'm doing this as an end user. I will be simply redirected to this particular page without allowing me to perform a password reset. And that is because for this particular user group, if you remember, I had enabled a minimum of 2 factors of authentication before performing a password self-service action. All right. So I need to verify my identity with both the factors of authentication, or depending on the number of authenticators enabled, all the factors of authentication. I can pick from different authenticators based on what's easy for me to work with as an end user, but it's important for me to verify my identity with the authenticators because it's mandatory. The level of authentication is mandatory. The authenticators is a choice that you can allow users to work with. All right, so I'm going to jump back to the reports tab once again to click on the user attempt audit report. This is one of my favorite reports. And I want you to notice that there is a user attempt audit by the user Sharada. I can actually click on more to get details of different kind of attempts. I'm checking in from the southern part of India. It's a little before 10 p.m. So that's why the timestamp reads as is. But yes, this is an attempt that we made. This is the type of attempt. You can also choose to work with multiple filters. You can also choose to customize the reports that you see right here. This is one of my favorite reports, and I will walk you through why it is through this workshop series, because we're going to see a couple of red flags in this particular audit report that you see right here. So since my authentication while performing a password reset was successful, I do not have a red flag, but I'm going to walk you through when and where it is a red flag. All right. Quickly jumping to enrollment report. So the very first thing that you do when you get started with ADSelfService Plus as an administrator is actually allow users to be able to perform password self-service using ADSelfService Plus. But how do you ensure that users have actually signed up with different authenticators in order to successfully perform password self-service, right? So this process, the process of signing up with ADSelfService Plus by signing up to different authenticators is what we call as enrollment. So when I click on the enrolled users report and generate this particular report right here, I want you to notice that there are a couple of users who have enrolled with ADSelfService Plus. I'm going to try to let us go ahead and actually disenroll a particular user. All right, so I'm going to pick Brian, for instance, and Andy. Let me disenroll both these users. All right, yes. So these users had previously signed up with different authenticators, But since all these user accounts that we're working with throughout the workshop are test user accounts, I, as an administrator, once again, have the privilege to disenroll users, which I have done for Andy and Brian, all right? I'm going to take time to answer one quick question from Amin. Do we have an agent for Mac OS? Yes, we do. We support agents for Windows, Mac, and Linux. Thank you, Amin. Jumping back, I have a big bunch of non-enrolled users, but now we're going to look at what we can do to actually ensure users in the organization sign up with ADSelfService Plus, starting with the simple, straightforward enrollment notification or push. All right. Let me specifically send this out to the O user I'm working with today. I click on OK. It's an email notification. I have my email server configured. And yes, I have an access URL. The mail can be customized. We support HTML format as well. So I'm basically introducing users to a new tool that we've deployed, which is Password Self-Service. This is what you can do when you're just getting started with ADSelfService Plus, but eventually you can choose to onboard users with a simple email or push notification. A push is sent to the ADSelfService Plus mobile app, and perfect. All right, I'm going to walk you through the notification delivery report as well. But I have this mail that has been triggered to a couple of users. I'm going to sincerely request you to excuse my neighbor's dog. If it gets a bit noisy, please let me know. I'm going to jump to the ADSelfService Plus instance right here. What I've done in the backend, once again, is just to make it easy for all of us, I have created one email address and mapped all the user accounts to this particular email address. So I am sure I would have received a couple of emails. There we go. And a bunch of status failures, that's all right. But I have a form enrollment requisition sent out to the user Andy. I have created an email address just for the workshop purpose and mapped all user accounts to this particular email address. So all the mails that are triggered will reach this particular inbox. And this talks about a new self-service tool that we've deployed, which is easy to use. Let's click on the link and actually go through an enrollment process. Let's look at what enrollment looks like. Perfect. Another question from Dennis. Will users be disenrolled automatically when disabling or removing users from Active Directory? All right, so that happens. User disenrollment happens when your AD is in sync with ADSelfService Plus. That is something that definitely happens when you remove users from your native Active Directory, not when you disable users. You can choose to import a list of users and disenroll them. You can also choose to revoke their ADSelfService Plus licensing when you disable them. So there are two ways in which you can approach this. When you're performing an Active Directory cleanup, while you disable users, you can choose to import the list of users with a simple CSV file, or pick these users manually if the number of users are less, and choose to revoke licenses that they have taken up in ADSelfService Plus. But when an Active Directory sync takes place, which happens periodically, where the application synchronizes with AD, if the user account has already been removed, that particular user will not exist in ADSelfService Plus anymore, which also means they will automatically be disenrolled as well. So I hope that answers your question, Dennis. Thank you so much. Coming back right here, I am once again a very quick notification here. I'm working with the default settings, so the administrative page is still visible. I am going to click on Andy, log into SSP workshop. I hope I remember the previous password. Let's put my memory to test. Clearly not. One more attempt. All right. Perfect. So this particular user's account has been locked out because of multiple bad password attempts. We had just onboarded this particular user. The user has not even logged in and signed up with ADSelfService Plus, and they've already logged themselves out, which simply means neither can I log into ADSelfService Plus to enroll with authenticators, nor can I actually perform a password reset or an account unlock, right? This is the self-service portal. I'm going to click on Andy and see what this is going to look like. Click on continue. I've not enrolled with the application, which simply means I do not have the permission to perform an account unlock, right? So this is once again a very critical part that I want you to pay attention to. I'm going to jump back to ADSelfService Plus console and remind you that just a quick second. Andy belongs to finance. All right, so I'm going to very quickly jump back right here. Go back to the configuration tab to remind you that the finance users can perform an account unlock, but when I jump to multi-factor authentication, click on finance. I want you to notice that the security question answer, email verification, and Microsoft Authenticator has been configured. When I click on MFA for reset and unlock, I need a minimum of 2 authenticators for finance. I have definitely not signed up with Microsoft Authenticator, but here it's been set as mandatory. But what happens when I enable email verification? All right, set the authenticator to 1, save settings for finance, the users belonging to finance. All right, I do not have Microsoft Authenticator set as mandatory because this requires manual enrollment. All right, I've saved these settings once again, and remember that I'm doing this for the policy finance. Jumping back, I am going to reattempt the account unlock for Andy. Click on continue. Stick with me. This time, I'm actually redirected to the account unlock process wherein my email address is automatically fetched. All right. I once again want to remind you, I have not manually enrolled with any of the authenticators. I am going to choose to continue. And there has been a verification code that is triggered for this particular user. All right. The reason this particular workflow kicks in is because the email attribute available in AD and the mobile attribute that's available in AD is automatically fetched. So the only 2 methods in which users can still verify their user identity without having to manually sign up with ADSelfService Plus is if and only if they have their Active Directory mobile and mail attribute is populated, wherein they can actually use their email and mobile attribute to receive a secure code to verify their identity while performing a password reset or account unlock. So the email verification and SMS verification is a manual enrollment-free method of performing a password reset or account unlock, all right? This might seem like a lot of information in a very, very short span of time, but the simple and straightforward way to approach this is that if users have logged out due to multiple bad password attempts or forgotten their password and they've not signed up with authenticators, this is specifically for users, for non-enrolled users, you can choose to still enable email verification to allow them to use their own identity as a verification method without having to allow administrators or technicians in your organization to intervene and perform a password self-service action. And this is purely from a security perspective, all right? Going back, I am going to talk a bit more about enrollment and different ways in which you can ensure enrollment. So let's say after multiple email notifications or push notifications, users have still not enrolled with the application. You can choose to import enrollment data. So when I approach enrollment, I talk about enrollment in 3 ways. One is manual enrollment, where you simply customize an email, trigger the email, or customize a push notification, trigger the notification, and allow users to sign up with ADSelfService Plus manually. The second method of, the second way of enrolling with the application is automatic enrollment, where you import enrollment data either from a CSV file or an external data source. So talking about a CSV file, it's a simple, straightforward import of specific properties. When I say properties, I'm talking about AD properties like mobile or email ID. You can choose to synchronize dual security information, security question answers, or just an answer where you predefine the question. You can pick your security question as well. Let's stick with question and answers, all right? So let's say I want to import data for marketing. I can choose to pick a particular CSV file, enter the CSV file location right here. The sample CSV is also available, and then choose to import. So I'm actually going to do this live. I am going to walk you through how you can import data from a CSV file. I believe I have a sample with me, a sample CSV file with me. If not, we will do it live. All right. CSV test. So this is where the file exists. I'm going to open this particular file to show you. This is what it looks like, right? Jumping back to the ADSelfService Plus enrollment page. So configuration, administrative tools, quick enrollment, import enrollment data from a CSV file. For the marketing policy, question and answers, browsing to pick the file. Workshop, CSV test. I click on open. I am going to choose to simply click enroll. I am not picking this option. And when I click on enroll, I have a list of users as well, choosing to enroll. And I have reasons as to why a particular auto enrollment process failed as well. So Gray has already enrolled with ADSelfService Plus, since I did not choose to override this particular user's enrollment field, whereas Jake and Samar do not even belong to the same OU. The other user's enrollment has been successful. I will walk you through who that user is in just a couple of seconds. But this is a very simple method to import enrollment data. If you already have users in your organization whose data is available with you, just as a priority to get them started. So if you would like to import the official email address and mobile number of users, you can choose to do that as well, and then enable email verification and SMS verification as the method of authentication for starters, all right? And then eventually allow users to log into ADSelfService Plus and sign up with different authenticators based on their convenience, based on what works best for users in your organization. I'm going to talk in detail about multi-factor authentication in tomorrow's session. But yes, coming back to enrollment, you can also choose to do the same by importing data from an external data source. This could be, any data source that you have access to. ADSelfService Plus has privileges to access and query to, and configure your DB connection, and you will be able to add a fetcher and import enrollment data. You can also choose to have a scheduler where if you continue to add information to a particular CSV file or an external data source, the information is constantly imported on a periodic basis at a frequency that you set, all right? So these are two ways in which you can onboard users automatically without users having to sign up with ADSelfService Plus. And as a last resort, you can definitely choose to force users to enroll with the help of a logon script. And that is how the script is going to look. So you can choose to remove the bypass option. There you go. You can remove the cancellation button. So what happens in this particular case is users will be forced to enroll with the application before even performing any other operation once they log into their machine. This is once again something that you can customize if you'd like to make ADSelfService Plus mandatory for every single user on an organizational level, all right? Yes, since I have a bunch of test users that I'm working with, I'm going to jump back to the reports tab. To go to enrollment reports, click on enroll users report to show you just one particular user has been onboarded right here. And the user is Andy. All right, if you remember, I removed Andy and Brian's enrollment from here, but Andy has already been enrolled with the CSV import today at 10 p.m. I am also going to filter this to partially enrolled, click on generate to see if I have any users who have partially enrolled with the application. Yes, of course we do. And that is because the user belonging to a particular OU or policy that you've created, if that particular user requires to sign up with different authenticators for different checkpoints, different endpoints, different applications, but the enrollment has been done either automatically or is not complete, then the enrollment status is updated to partially. And you can also make use of an MFA backup code to help users verify their identity because of partially enrolled status. All right. So a very, very quick jump to the agenda. I'm going to do a very, very quick recap of all that we've seen so far before I move further with today's session. So talking about empowering users to reset their password and unlock their accounts, it's simple. You have to create a self-service policy, allow users or user groups or domains or forests to or permit the password reset and account unlock permission. If you do not give them the permission, that particular user will not be able to perform the self-service action. So you decide the permissions, self-service permissions that you'd like to delegate to user groups. And talking about delegating self-service permissions, you can choose to do it based on OUs and groups present in the Active Directory. It's something that we have done. We have domain level permissions. We also have OU level permissions that we have created. You can choose to secure the password reset process, which is the only way to allow users to actually perform any self-service action, and that is by introducing multi-factor authentication. I'm going to walk you through a couple of authenticators through this particular series, but at no point of time are these recommended authenticators. Please pick authenticators that are convenient for users in your organization. And I would highly recommend you to work with a minimum of 2 additional factors of authentication, especially for Windows logon and VPNs, all right? A bit more about that tomorrow. But it's important for users to actually onboard to the application, enroll with these authenticators to be able to perform password self-service or to enjoy the privileges of ADSelfService Plus. So to ensure 100% adoption, you can choose to allow users to manually enroll with the application by notifying them via email and push notification. You can choose to automatically enroll these users if you already have the data with you with the help of a CSV file or an external data source. You can also choose to force users to enroll with the help of a logon script. So this is what we've seen so far. Once again, I'm walking you through the administrative configuration today. I will show you how things look from an end user's perspective through the series, just to make the session easy today because it's a heavy session. Going on, I will also be walking you through how and why it's very, very important to ensure users in your organization are aware of their password expiration schedule and how you can allow them to update their cache credential by performing a password reset. And then finally wrapping up by talking about password self-service actions that you can view real time with the help of the audit report. So I am going to go back to the ADSelfService Plus console I have right here. Go to the configuration tab, clicking on self-service password expiration notification. I'm sure you noticed that we have a big, big list of users whose passwords have already expired. I already have a scheduler up and running. It's a simple, straightforward email notification. The advantage of this particular module is I can choose to notify the entire domain that I'm working with, irrespective of my product licensing. So irrespective of whether you are a customer of ADSelfService Plus or not, you can still choose to work with the password expiration notification module that we provide, which is 100% free, no restrictions on this particular module. So you can choose to notify every single user on an organization level. Here I have configured a password expiration notification via email. I can choose to push it out as a push notification to the mobile app or as an SMS. I have also customized a targeted email right here. So 15 days to expiration, 7, 1, and on the day of password expiration. I have a scheduler that's already up and running. When I click on advanced setting, I want you to notice that I've chosen to exclude disabled users and exclude smart card users because these users do not require a password expiration notification. I can also choose to exclude or notify only enrolled users. Once again, that's an advantage if you'd like to keep a tab on users who've enrolled and users who are active while using ADs. Users who are actively using ADSelfService Plus, pardon me there. And yeah, in terms of notification, you can choose to notify password expired users as well, and also send out notification to the users manager and the administrator about their impending password or account expiry. So I do already have a scheduler that's up and running, that's been running for quite some time. I've set a frequency of 12 o'clock. So I want you to very quickly notice that this is the email address that I've mapped all user accounts to. There you go. I have a couple of users who have received a password expired notification. And this is 12 a.m. Indian Standard Time this morning. All right. And if I scroll down, I will also be able to show you there are a bunch of users previously who have received password expiration notification as well. There you go, password or account expiration notification. And the mail reads, despite all reminders, you still haven't changed your password, which will expire today. So this was triggered on 29th. What you can do is send out notifications with the ADSelfService Plus access URL as well, the web portal link as well, the secure link that you have enabled in your organization. So if you have users in your organization who you have onboarded to ADSelfService Plus, it makes the job easy because they simply have to click the link and they will be able to change their password or reset their password well in advance. And for those users who do not have the password self-service privileges, a simple notification will allow them to reset their password, change their password from the Gina CP screen. So I'm actually going to go ahead with the password reset process. I click on password reset, enter. Let me go ahead with Adam's password reset. Click on continue. I only have 2 authenticators for Adam. I'm going to stick to security questions. Click on continue once again. I honestly do not remember the answers to my own questions. I'm sorry about that. But I'm going to click on reset password, and it's been a while since I logged in as Adam, so sorry about that. I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to stick to email verification because it's straightforward. Click on continue, pick the email address that's mapped. In our particular case, it's sharda.workshop@gmail.com. I click on continue. There's an email verification code. That is triggered. All right. I hope my memory serves me well. Click on continue. Yes. On successful user identity verification, I'm redirected to the reset password console. I want you to quickly notice that I have the provision to reset another account's password right here from my Genius CP. I also have a custom password policy, but that was a trailer for the upcoming session. I'm going to talk in detail about password security, the importance of multi-factor authentication tomorrow, and talk about what's beyond Active Directory in terms of user identity security and how an application like ADSelfService Plus can help you with that in the third session of this particular series. So I want you to come back, stick with me while I walk you through how you achieve all that and more. But wrapping up today's session, I want you to notice that the password expired user report has not changed. I've not reset any passwords today. I've attempted password resets, but I've not changed any user's password today. That is going to remain as is because we will be performing a live password reset tomorrow. I also want you to notice that every single attempt that has been made today is listed right here, including account unlock. All right. For the user Andy, which was successful because I was able to verify my identity with email verification. Whereas for the first account unlock that was attempted for the user Andy, the user attempt was not successful. So along with statuses, you have every single report listed right here. I do have a bunch of non-enrolled users. I had disenrolled Brian's account today. So Brian will also be in this list. There we go. But with automatic enrollment, we were able to onboard Andy using the CSV file. And the license user report is also available right here. This will help you keep track of the user licensing against what you've purchased. So if you have user accounts in your organization that are no longer require an ADSelfService Plus license, but have enrolled at some point of time, you can simply choose to pick those user accounts and revoke their ADSelfService Plus licensing. All right. With that, I'm going to quickly wrap up the session for the day. I do know it was a lot of information in a very short span of time, but it will all start to make a lot more sense when I give you an end user perspective on things. But for now, if you do have any questions, please keep them coming. If you're looking for customization in your organization, if you're looking for a particular feature that you'd like me to talk about in detail, a particular application that you'd like me to talk about in detail, please let me know so I can pre-configure and be ready for the upcoming sessions. That said, tomorrow we will be talking about multi-factor authentication and password security, the importance of paying attention to user identity security is what we will be talking about tomorrow. So if you do have any questions about tomorrow's session as well, you can drop your questions in the Q&A tab. I'll take time to answer them.